All right, second idea. Thanks for that laugh, that's great. Second idea that I have for you is eating smarter, and we're going to stick with the brain for a moment. This is an MRI scan of one of my students' heads. We found the brain. It was actually in there. And I had to check. And so imagine taking a camera and zooming into the tissue up top. It looks something like this, 100 billion neurons, each with thousands of connections. And it's at those connections where thinking takes place. Electricity zooms down to the end of the neuron, triggers the release of neurotransmitters that move back and forth and carry thoughts, problems, concentration, focus, music, basketball shots. Everything happens at the neurotransmitters. And what we've discovered over the last 5 years or so is that the foods that we eat during the day influence the type of neurotransmitters that are created inside the brain. And if we eat foods that are higher in protein than carbohydrates, we narrow our focus and we can concentrate more easily. If we eat foods that are high in carbohydrates and low in protein, we widen focus and relax. So contemplate how you feel an hour after having a chicken salad, for example. Clear, sharp, focused, everything's good. Or an hour after having a big, huge plate of pasta. Happy. Searching for a place to have a nap, right? Very, very, very different physiologic responses. We need to do things a little bit differently. Sticking with the brain, I think that there's some tremendous potential for us to actually leverage the fact that we can use healthy proteins to help us work and do our best work more easily. I love the idea of having protein for breakfast and lunch. I'm not anti-carb. There's some incredible sources of carbohydrates that are packed full of fiber, vitamins, minerals, which enhance our health. I just believe we need to decrease the amount of sugar and processed foods that we consume because they negatively affect the hippocampus, the structure that I've circled there in red that's responsible for learning. Research shows that high sugar, high processed food diets shrink the hippocampus. And it also results in lower BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that stimulates the growth of new neurons inside the brain, lower cyclic AMP, the energy currency inside brain cells, and lower synaptin mRNA, the genetic code for new connections between neurons inside the brain. It's incredibly powerful. We can fundamentally rewire our brains if we eat healthy. And we can actually protect our brains by eating healthy fats. If you look at the tissue on the surface of the brain, it's an image of actual surface of a brain. If you look at the tissue, it's white. The reason why it's white is because your brain is largely made up of fats. Specifically, omega-3 fatty acids, which wrap around the branches of neurons inside your brain and protect them from damage, just like bark on the branch of a tree. It's absolutely incredible. I'm going to step out of my presentation for 1 second. I have to tell you this story. I gave this talk at a school about 3 months ago in Victoria, BC. And I gave a talk at a school, and afterwards one of the teachers asked me, can you please do this talk for the grade 3s? I'm like, I don't talk to grade 3s. I have one. They're terrifying. I don't do that. He said, please, please. So I did it, and this little girl insisted on sitting on my foot for the presentation. I got to this slide, and she pulled on my leg, and I looked down, what's up, sweetheart? She goes, yes, and myelin speeds the transmission of electrons between neurons in the brain. It jumps from breaks in the neurons, and it actually speeds up nerve. I was like, who are you? And can I invest in your company? True story. Just like we have problems with using our phone devices and sleep, we actually have a fundamental problem with nutrition in our world. This is an image that I took on an expedition that I did to India a few years ago. I took a group of youth ambassadors there, and we ran with Impossible to Possible and Ray Zahab's group, and we ran 300 kilometers through the Thar Desert in the northwest corner of India, right near the Pakistan border. It was stunningly beautiful, and kids came to our campsite every night. We were there to investigate issues related to world health on behalf of the World Health Organization. So one day I went into one of the villages, and I found this gentleman selling all the traditional Indian foods. You'll notice the entire spectrum of the rainbow is there, all fresh, anti-cancer, anti-heart disease, anti-type 2 diabetes, anti-metabolic syndrome, anti-depression. There is an entire field that's emerging now called nutritional psychiatry, the use of foods to treat mental health issues. Like, it's all there and it's perfect. I took that image, I turned my body 90 degrees, and I took this image. And as those types of foods are permeating into China, India, Brazil, Malaysia, Kenya, our businesses, our schools, our homes, the diseases of the West are following: cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, depression. We need to vote with our pocketbooks. We need to do things differently. We need to approach food as fuel for our performance and fuel for our healthy lives as well.